All right, guys. So we got some massive news for the New York Knicks today, as there was a rumor going around that Ben Simmons ended up rejecting an offer from the Knicks. But Ian Begley of SNY reported that the Knicks never actually made a formal offer to him, and the two guys who were on the radar for that final roster spot is between Landry Shamet and Malcolm Brogdon, which makes sense as the Knicks don't exactly have a backup ball handler to Jalen Brunson. They've got Tyler Kolek, but he's still developing. Not the best defender, obviously. Has a long way to go. From what I've seen over the course of the summer, since after the summer league, Kolek does look a lot better. His handle is tighter. Of course, he's more physical, stronger. But I still don't think he's ready to lead the bench as the sort of the six-man type of role, which is why they went out and got Jordan Clarkson. But I think adding in Malcolm Brogdon next to him does make a lot of sense because last season he averaged 15.3 points, which that seems awfully high. I think that's for his career. Let me just quickly fact check that because, yeah, that's for his career. I was going to say because last season was certainly one to forget for Brogdon. He was extremely inefficient compared to where he had been. He averaged 12.7 points on 43.3% from the field. The biggest thing, though, is that three ball. He ended up shooting that at 28.6. You look at the previous two seasons, he was at 41%. And then that sixth man of the year, remember IQ finished second, runner up, he was at 44.4%. So if Brogdon can stay healthy, 67 games in that year, 39 two seasons ago, and then last season 24. There's upside for certain. So it kind of comes down to, do you want that floor or do you want that ceiling? And for the Knicks, I don't think they necessarily need this ceiling. I think they just need someone who can come off the bench and shoot the ball and can play defense. And we already know that Landry Shamet wants to be here. He's in New York as we speak, training. He's under heavy consideration according to multiple sources, which I did post that on my community tab if you guys want to go read that, or you can just look it up on Twitter. It will come up somewhere. I'm personally leaning towards Landry Shamet because I do believe in Jordan Clarkson and Tyler Kolek. I think that's plenty enough off of the bench. Why not add another 3-and-D wing to, of course, go with Yabusele off of the bench? You can never have enough shooting. And that's why I'm leaning towards Shamet, especially what we saw out of the playoffs. And he's just built to play in New York. I like Shamet's game. And without Ben Simmons, I'm pivoting to Shamet now. I also certainly wouldn't mind DeLon Wright. He's a name that I'd love to see the Knicks bring back. You just certainly could do a lot worse with a bench of Deuce, Shamet, Kolek, Yabusele, and Mitchell Robinson. I like that a ton. The Knicks are a little bit confusing as well because they're handing out some roster spots from guys that we don't expect to see play much, like Bacome Dadier, Kevin McCullough, like Tyler Kolek. These guys are not going to be a part of the rotation consistently, but they're rostering them for the fact that, of course, they're cheaper because they use second round picks, and Dadier signed like a pretty much a record breaking contract for a first round pick. It paid him very, very little for that standard. Obviously, for like a normal person, it's a lot of money, but they got a steal for Dadier. So they're able to roster these guys and stay under that second apron barely. Mikal Bridges signed an extension, which of course, he got his money, but it wasn't anything crazy. OG's on a huge contract, Cat's on a super max, Jalen Brunson's on an all-time, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady type of pay cut, which is carrying the Knicks. Josh Hart's on a team-friendly deal as well. And then the rest of these guys, like Mitchell Robinson's on expiring. He's going to have to get extended. I don't expect Mitch to be back next season just because how the hell are they going to afford him unless he takes a team-friendly deal. If Mitch really does want to be in New York, he absolutely can do that. But Isaiah Hartenstein, I kind of thought the same, and he didn't. He took the money and went to OKC. So I don't know why Mitch wouldn't do that, which would be sad because he's the longest tenured Knick. And there's just not many guys on this roster, at least big-time players that were drafted here, like Deuce McBride and Mitchell Robinson. That's it. No one else here that's like a big part of the team was drafted. Everyone else was a trade or a free agent acquisition. So you always want to see homegrown players be able to stay. Like IQ and RJ Barrett obviously were drafted here, but they got shipped over for OG Anunoby in a trade. So let me know your guys' thoughts on who you want to see the Knicks go out and get for that final roster spot. I think both make sense. I get why people would want Brogdon, but just given the fact of his injury history, I mean, you do the math on that. 39 plus 24 is, obviously 63. So that's not going to get it done. Like in 2 seasons, I'd rather just go with Shamet, who we know is going to be available. We already know what to expect out of him, and that's to be able to come off the bench and to stay ready and to play good on ball defense and to shoot the three ball. And he just wants to be here as well. Like Landry Shamet, the past 2 months, there's been reports about him being in New York, working out training to get that final roster spot. Guys like that, you just gotta be able to make sure that they remain here. And Shamet's bounced around the league, but he's always just made teams better. And you look at what he did, of course, last season for the Knicks. He ended up shooting the three ball at 39.7%, 46% from the field, about 6 points a game, and 15.2 minutes. So I'd love to see Shamet get about 10 to 15 minutes a night just to keep guys fresh and to shoot the three ball, to stretch the floor. Yeah, to me, I'm leaning towards Landry Shamet. Like, I like Shamet more as a player because he's just, every single time Shamet releases the ball, I think it's going in, and he's clearly built for the bright lights of New York. He came in game 3 back against the wall, and he played well games 3, 4, 5, and 6, of course, and Shamet was awesome. I just love the idea of another 3-and-D wing, but that's if Tyler Kolek is ready to go. And judging off of what I saw in the Summer League, I don't think he necessarily is. I know I made a video saying that Kolek, the Knicks are hiding a monster. I really do like Tyler Kolek, but I'm talking about every single night can Kolek fill in the minutes without Brunson. And I don't think we saw enough in the Summer League to be able to say that we did, as much as I'd like to see him be able to do that. I think Kolek's probably like a year or two away. So the Knicks do need playmaking next to Brunson. So I think Brogdon makes sense in that regard. Malcolm Brogdon can defend. He can playmake. And even though last season he did not shoot the three ball well, previously, the 2 years before that, he was over 40%. So how much do we take away from Brogdon's season last year? He was with a bad team. There's just not much for him to exactly work with. But if he comes to the Knicks, he's competing for a championship. It's going to be a breath of fresh air. And when he was with the Celtics back in 2023, I mean, he was the sixth man of the year. He was unbelievable. Remember the year Emmanuel quickly finished runner-up? Remember how good IQ was? Well, Brogdon was even better. But the issue as well with him is he's averaged 58.25 games in his past 4 seasons. So how reliable is he going to be? And he would be off of the bench, so it should be fine with the minutes. But it does seem awfully risky to go get Brogdon. He averaged 13, 4, 4, and a steal last season. Me personally, I like this in the sense that it would take a lot of the playmaking pressure off of Jalen Brunson, because you could argue the Knicks' biggest weakness, well, defensively, like defense was our biggest weakness, but probably you could argue outside of that, the second biggest weakness was there was way too much pressure on Brunson to be able to take the ball up and to create every single possession, which is why I mentioned in my video yesterday, Cat needs to be more of a focal point in the offense if I'm Mike Brown. But at least have someone else who's capable of playmaking and bringing the ball up. Because as much as I like Deuce McBride, he doesn't really provide that. He doesn't dribble the basketball up. I mean, he'll do it if Brunson's injured or something like that, but we just don't really see that. Campaign did do that, but then he struggled and became unplayable, which is why we saw DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet be inserted, and that worked out very well. So I think Brogdon would be a good piece,